Now, the biggest ever win that I've had in one day, the grandest total I've had on my P&L in one day, was just short of £30,000. However, how you measure what your overall result is very dependent upon whether you're betting or trading, and people often get the two mixed up. So my question to you is, are you betting or are you trading? If you're interested in learning to trade on Betfair, then visit the BetAngel Academy, where you have detailed, structured Betfair trading courses. Or why not visit our website, where you can download a free trial of BetAngel Professional, but also visit the forum, where you can get detailed images, examples, and downloadable files. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell icon if you want notification of new videos as they're released. So when I ask the simple question of, are you betting or are you trading? It seems like a really simple answer to give, because you're either betting or trading, and surely there must be a sort of fairly familiar line between the two. But the funny thing is that I often see a lot of strategies out there that are sort of positioned as trading when they're really betting. And it's really important, if you're active and in this market and you want to make money, that you understand the differences between the two, because they carry different levels of risk, the payoffs are slightly different, and there are a number of things that you need to be aware of if you're going to be successful at both of them. So as I mentioned at the start of this video, the biggest ever payday that I had with any strategy at all was just short of £30,000 in one day. However, I didn't look at it like that, because while £30,000 in one day sounds mighty impressive, this was predominantly a betting strategy. And when you're placing a bet, whether it's a back bet or a lay bet, what you're doing is you're staking a large chunk of money. Well, not necessarily a large chunk, but you're putting a stake into the market, is the message that I'm trying to get across here. And you will profit on that in the long term by winning slightly more than you lose. So we put our stake into the market, and hopefully we will win multiples of that back. Or maybe if it's an odds-on shot, maybe we won't win multiples, but we will win a large chunk of that stake or multiples of it. And when you're actively trading, it's not like that at all. So betting, you want to win more than you lose. Trading, you want to win more than you lose. But when you're actively trading a market, what you would do is put a large stake into the market, or maybe not such a large stake if you're just starting out, but you understand the concept of where I'm going. This represents the amount of stake that you've got in the market, but your potential return will be a small percentage of that. It will be plus or minus a certain amount of that stake. The entire stake should never be at risk at any point within your trade. That's one of the key elements of trading. Okay, you're using larger amounts of money, but you're only actually trading the small amount of movement that you get within the market, or a window within that market. And it's that window that you're looking to gain on over the long term. So most of the time you'll win, some of the time you'll lose, but basically as long as you frame that trade, as long as you create an opportunity and you trade that effectively and you don't risk that large stake, then you will be profitable in the long term. There should never be a situation where you put that large stake at risk. And this is often where people go wrong, because they trade racing pre-off, for example. They looking at a stake of about this size. This is the average traded range that they're actively trading. It doesn't go particularly well, and they end up with that entire stake in play. And of course, then they lose that entire stake, and it takes a lot of effort to be able to recover that overall stake when you're actively trading. So the simple thing to do is just put another bet on the next race, which then loses, and then all of a sudden everything's going all horribly wrong. So it's really important that you differentiate between a bet and a trade, because the stake levels that you use and the returns that you get on those stakes are completely different. So while my best ever day that I did yielded a return of nearly £30,000, I didn't see it as a return of £30,000. I actually saw it as a percentage of that. And that was because when you've been in the market for as long as I have, you're going to catch the odd outlier, and this particular day was an outlier. It was just right off the scale of what you expect. Typically with a betting strategy, you sort of win £3,000 one day, lose 2 the next, win 5, lose 3.5, maybe lose 2 and then lose 1 and then win 5. So you see it's a sort of an unusual pattern of activity, but you get steep up curves and big drawdowns, and you're just hoping that the graph goes like this over the long term. And generally that's exactly what happens. I did a blog post on this recently comparing betting and trading, and I thought I really should put a video with that. And if you look at the P&L that I put on this blog post, I will link to the blog post in the description. You can see that it rises and falls all over the place. But if you look at the equity curve on the trading strategy, you can see it's just a nice gentle upward slope. And that is because when you're betting, the result you've got is outcome dependent. So that £30,000 that I won, it just happened on that day. I got every single one right, which is really rare. So I never saw that as £30,000. I knew what my long-term edge was, and let's say that my long-term edge was 5% on average per bet that I put into the market. Then you would really see that £30,000 as about 1,500. So yeah, you're looking and you're saying, this is my long-term edge, and that's a percentage of the amount that I've won. And therefore, that's really what I achieved on that particular day. However, when I'm trading, it's not uncommon for me to get into four figures on any one day. But the difference with trading is that is pure profit, and that is because it's not outcome dependent. And what do we mean by that? Well, when we're actively trading horse racing, we will trade a certain amount, and at the end of that particular period of trading, which is typically pre-off, we hedge our position, so the result becomes outcome independent. And that's one of the big differentiators. The stake is bigger when you're betting, the returns that you get are bigger, the P&L is more variable, but also it's results dependent. When you're trading, you're using a large stake, but you're only trading the volatility of a small part of that. Effectively what you're doing is you're trading the profit on the bet effectively. But basically your return will always be slightly smaller, but at the end of that sequence of events, you are actually hedging your profit or loss, and that is a true P&L. That drops straight to your bottom line, and you win or you lose at that particular moment in time. And it's outcome independent. It doesn't matter who wins or what. That is your money for you to bank. So there's a big difference between the two of them. And very often, as trading has become popularized, you often see people positioning betting strategies as trading, but they're not. And as I've said, you've got these key differences between the two, and to call a betting strategy a trading strategy is completely false, because you're looking at entirely different things. If we are betting in the last 10 minutes of a football match, for example, say we're looking for a goal in that final 10 minutes, and when we say, okay, price is 1.1 or price is 1.5 or something, and I think there's going to be a goal in the last 10 minutes. If you put that position in the market and then you wait to the end of the match, that's effectively a bet. You're doing a value bet, because you're not going to win every time. It's not outcome independent, and therefore whatever stake you put down, say £1,000, £100, £10, £2, whatever, you'll only ever win over the long term a small percentage of that. But that's definitely a betting strategy. However, if you said, I'm going to back under 2.5 goals, I'm going to wait until 15 minutes. If there's a goal, this is what I'm going to do. If there's no goal, that's what I'm going to do. Then you've got a trading strategy, because what you're doing is you're framing an opportunity and you're creating an outcome independent result at the end of that process. And then you can decide what to do from that particular point. But also you can repeat it as well. So in tennis, for example, a player has a set down and a breakdown, and you say, I'm going to take a position on this on the basis that he will get a break back before this set. And then, so if you develop a trading plan and you've got a defined entry, a defined exit, and then that position is hedged for a profit or a loss to become outcome independent, that's a trade. If you're betting on something on the basis that the price is out of kilter and your return comes back to you over the course of 1,000 bets or whatever, and it's represented as a percentage of that, hopefully you understand where I'm coming from here. If you're taking outright risk and so on, then you've got a bet, and that's a different strategy. You can't really merge the two. They're not really compatible with each other, because the return on stake and the outcome is very different from the two of them. They just don't match very well. So I do both, but I run them on different accounts so that I've got an objective measure of exactly what's going on and how well I'm doing. I never merge the two strategies together. I see them as completely independent and separate. But you've also got another benefit with trading as well, because this is what freaks people out about trading typically, is they see those large stake numbers and they're thinking, and they feel like that is at risk. But if you're trading honestly and truly, that large stake is never at risk. You're only ever trading a small section of that. So you manage that effectively, but seeing a large number necessarily makes you feel uncomfortable. I started with very, very small stakes when I was trading, and you get very, very small returns as a consequence, but I just gradually increased the size of my bank over time and got more and more comfortable. So I can put substantial amounts through a market now. But one of the big benefits of trading is, say you've got an active trade and you're actively trading that market and you've done it successfully. That is a Spitfire that's going over. Can you believe that? I was going to ignore it, but I had to look because I thought I recognised the noise, and sure enough, it's a Spitfire. Anyway, back to the video. I'm not going to edit that out. Sometimes I'll stop the video and restart, but I'm not going to edit that one out. So yeah, we actively trade a market. We make a small profit or loss by the amount of money or the traded range or the window of opportunity that we have created. But think about it. Your trade doesn't have to stop there. You can repeat your trade. When you place a bet, your bet comes down and you have to wait for the outcome of the result, and sure enough you can do many different events. But when you're actively trading, you can repeat the trade. So this is another characteristic that you see within a trading market that makes it quite beneficial, but also changes the way that you view your risk within the market and exactly what you're doing. So there was a trade that I did this week. I can't quite remember where it is, but I will bring it up and put it on the video for you. But when you actually look at the amount that I put through the market, it was a very large amount, and people seeing that would probably freak out because it looks like I've risked a huge amount of money for a relatively small level of return. However, on this particular trade, what I did was I entered the market several times. So in fact, the stake I was using was quite small, but I did the trade multiple times, and this is another characteristic when you're looking at an active trading market. So yeah, there is a big differentiation between betting and trading. You need to make sure that you understand whether you're actively betting, whether you're taking outright risk, or whether you're truly trading, which is looking for a window of opportunity, defining it and making it result independent. Whichever one of those you do, you need to understand what that is, because it directly affects the way that you stake, the way that you'd interpret results, and the way that you go forward. I spend most of my time actively trading because I know that that is money that drops straight into my account at the end of that process. I know whether I've won or lost. When you're betting or trading, your P&L is much more variable, so you may have to wait for a very long period of time before you know if you have a true edge. And if you want to learn a little bit more about both of those topics, then read the blog post, because I do talk about that in essence a little bit more, and how perhaps you should measure that over the longer term if you have a betting strategy. But anyhow, I hope that video has been useful for you. If you've got a comment or you want to ask a specific question around this, then drop a note below, and I will either attempt to answer it there, or I may incorporate it into a future video. But hopefully that's separated for you and given you a clear idea of what your true objective is when you're betting or trading.